Welcome to this podcast. This is Professor David Lopez. This presentation will encompass several strategic financial categories that will contribute to a successful business or personal financial success. The discussion will include topics such as money management strategies, consumer credit, consumer purchasing strategies, housing alternatives, insurance basics, as well as basic investment concepts. Let's get started. Before we can discuss basic money management concepts, it's important to start any money management program as organized as you possibly can be. It's critical to create a system for personal financial records. These records can be used to justify a loan, to pass a background check, to file taxes successfully, and to become financially successful. Examples of personal financial records could include invoices, credit card statements, insurance policies, and tax forms. In order to understand where one stands financially, there are a number of different ratios that can be utilized to get valuable information regarding where one stands financially. They can be a debt ratio, a current ratio, which is liquid assets divided by current liabilities, a liquidity ratio, a debt ratio, or even a savings ratio. The objective of our current ratio is to determine your ability to pay bills based on cash that's available in a liquid fashion immediately. The budgeting process includes several different steps. The first step of a budgeting process would be to set financial goals, understand what your objectives are, and have them in writing. Secondly, estimating your level of income based on all sources, determining emergency fund levels and savings levels. Step 4, budgeting fixed expenses, as well as budgeting for variable expenses, which could be seasonal or depending on a health situation or a household situation. Step 6 is recording spending amounts, and step 7 is constant review and assessment of the performance of the budget over time. If you're successful at this, you'll be able to create discretionary income that would be used for more impulsive, perhaps, or fun areas of the economy. Although there are too many types of loans available that can be covered successfully in this recording, there are 3 general categories that you can look at. Inexpensive loans, generally speaking, are loans from parents, friends, family members. They have a relatively low interest rate, and the pressure to repay is relatively low. Medium-priced loans are loans obtained from commercial banks, savings and loans, used car loans, and home improvement loans, maybe a little bit more. Expensive loans, however, are credit that's extended from finance companies, check cashing services, retailers, and credit cards. These are the ones that you might be a little careful with regard to using or at least managing in a sensible way. The annual percentage rate is a rate of interest that's charged on purchases from credit cards and other lenders. Although this is not a class or a workshop that's going to delve too much into formulas, it's important to note that the simple interest formula is comprised of principal times a rate of interest times time, the length of time that the loan will occur. Lenders also have to understand that they're engaging in a risky transaction when they lend money out. Not always guaranteed it's going to come back. Lenders' risks can be mitigated through several strategies. One would be including a variable interest rate, and this is a rate that fluctuates based on the market. A secured loan, which is a loan given to an individual backed up by some form of collateral, including real estate and other assets, or actually upfront cash being received by the lender to mitigate risks. Credit counseling services usually are a not-for-profit entity, and these entities are designed to assist with individuals who are going through financial challenges and need to perhaps get their finances together to be successful in the future, which unfortunately in some cases does result in what's called bankruptcy. And this is a legal term indicating an individual or a family has more debt than equity at that point, and they're unable to fulfill their financial obligations. There are several practical purchasing strategies that can be utilized by consumers to maximize the value of their purchasing needs. Consumers can time their purchases based on seasonality or weather-based occurrences. They can utilize store selection strategies, including the cooperative or a nonprofit, to make purchases. Consumers generally compare brands based on advertising, word of mouth, and referrals. Basic label information in terms of how a product is created and what ingredients might be available in there. Also, unit pricing is a strategy utilized. If a consumer buys in bulk, he or she can save substantial money. The decision to buy versus leasing is usually a personal one based on a very detailed analysis of items such as security deposits, down payments, loan payments, end of lease charges, and value at the end of a loan for an automobile as well. A warranty comes in several different forms. A limited warranty covers only certain aspects of a product, maybe parts. Consumers have various options with regard to complaints. Poor service, poor construction can be common. The consumer can return to the place of purchase, contact the company's main office, obtain assistance from a consumer agency, such as a Small Business Administration or the Better Business Bureau, and then finally they can take legal action. Unfortunately, there are a number of different frauds and scams out there. It's important to be aware of the scams that are out there, such as phishing, fraudulent hotline, pyramid schemes, toll-free scams. If you are aware of these different illegal activities, you'll be able to hopefully avoid them and avoid financial losses. In the process of determining what the appropriate housing strategy is for a given individual or family, a number of different alternatives become apparent. Renting, owning a house, condominiums, cooperatives, mobile homes. Each one of these has advantages and disadvantages. For example, in the condominium, some of the advantages would be a tax benefit, fewer maintenance responsibilities, and access to recreation as well. Some of the disadvantages, for instance, could be less privacy. There is a financial commitment, uncertain demand with regard to the property values. Condominium prices go up and down rapidly, and there are assessment fees. Renting versus buying includes a number of different choices and benefits, as well as disadvantages. Some of the advantages of renting would be mobility. You can move, fewer responsibilities as a landlord, and lower initial cost. Some of the disadvantages of renting could be there's really few financial benefits, not a lot of tax benefits, if any, restricts your lifestyle, and there are legal details such as signing a lease for, at least a year. During the home buying process, you determine the amount of mortgage you can afford based on income and expenses. You negotiate to the best of your ability a long-term mortgage. There is, generally speaking, closing costs associated with buying a home. They include everything from lawyers to a title search to title insurance as well. Selling a home can be a challenging process. The property must be prepared and staged to look its best. Based on an appraisal, an estimate of the current value is created. The home can then be sold by owner or with a real estate agent. Real estate agents are valuable. They do, however, usually charge anywhere from a 4 to 6% commission, which on a large transaction adds up to a lot of equity kind of going out the door. So it's an analysis that has to be created prior to determine the best method to sell a home. The concept of insurance includes the transferring of a risk from one party to another in exchange for some form of compensation. The insurance is to cover various risks that have either a high or low probability of occurring. Could include the weather, it could include crime, could be fire, accident, premature death, or health challenges. There are a number of strategies utilized to manage the risks that exist in day-to-day life. One is avoidance, just staying away from a certain activity. Risk reduction, which is example of wearing a seatbelt in a car. Risk assumption means taking on the actual responsibility for the loss. This is also called self-insurance. Or shifting, which is a concept of shifting the risk or transferring the risk to an insurance company or other organization in exchange for compensation. Property and liability insurance cover everything from accidents to a home or a building. Errors and omissions insurance with regard to liability in the form of car insurance. Negligence is a concept that can cause an individual to be legally responsible for another's loss if the first party did something incorrect. Renter's insurance is a very inexpensive strategy to mitigate the risk of apartment fires or break-ins. And auto insurance occurs when an individual gives a premium to an auto insurance company to mitigate the risk of accident and other occurrences in a vehicle. Good, safe driving records and driving courses can provide premium discounts in many states. The objective of obtaining life insurance comes in many different forms. Life insurance can be purchased to pay off a mortgage after someone passes away, lump sum payments to children, provide for an education, charitable bequests, cover medical expenses, provide a retirement income, accumulate savings, or to set up an estate plan, or to pay taxes after one passes away. There are a number of different strategies available to determine the amount of life insurance that's necessary for a given situation. The most common is called the easy method. This is a basic formula that multiplies current income by 0.7. What that really means is that most people, when they retire, can successfully live on roughly 70% of their income. This is an easy method that comes up with that 70% number. If a couple have dual incomes with no children, it's a basic strategy of cutting everything in half, from mortgages to loans, credit card balances, and personal debt, as well as funeral expenses. The family needs strategy is appropriate if children are involved with regard to their future education needs. There are a number of different policies available for individuals and families. One of the more common would be the term insurance strategy. This provides protection for a very specific amount of time, usually 1 year, 5 years, 10 or 20, and there's a fixed premium on a yearly basis. Most insurance policies have what's called provisions. These provisions call for specific actions to be taken or not taken based on the situation. One of the major provisions of any life insurance policy is the ability to name what's called a beneficiary. A beneficiary is an individual, institution, charity that will receive the policy proceeds once an individual dies. Other policy provisions could be a grace period, suicide clause, or a policy loan provision. In this last section, we'll be covering some very basic concepts regarding investing fundamentals. It's not generally viewed as a good idea to randomly make investments without any thought to their ability to achieve long-term financial success. Before any investment program should be started or initiated, it's critical to determine what your investment goals and risk tolerance might be. Investment goals could be sending a child to college, retirement, paying down debt, creating a long-term investment program that allows to make investments on a regular basis. Other investment goals could be current income, speculation, or just long-term capital appreciation. It's also very important to determine what your risk tolerance is based on several different factors. Some of these factors could be age, ability to earn income, emotional reaction to volatility in securities prices. Lower income, older individuals might not be involved in speculative investments, where higher income investors tend to have more in that specific area. Asset allocation is a strategy that allows certain percentage of an overall investment portfolio to be allocated among several different classes, including stocks, bonds, and cash, international, emerging markets. This is a diversification strategy that allows an investor to mitigate risks, although there are a number of different risks out there for investors. Inflation risk, which is the cost of goods and services going up on a yearly basis. Interest rate risks. Generally speaking, if interest rates rise, bond prices decline. Business failure risk, that's a company literally going bankrupt and shares being reduced to a price of zero. Market risk, which is basically the overall market for a given securities class goes up or down. And global investment risk as well. One of the strategies to mitigate risk would be to monitor the prices of your portfolio on a monthly, daily, weekly basis as often as possible. This investment information can be obtained via the internet or CNBC or Bloomberg. This has been Professor David Lopez. Thank you for listening.